What was Meghan's worst moment of 2024, Lady Colin Campbell?
Without a doubt, Dan, the fact that her father's 80th birthday came and went, and she knew that no male Markle had lived to 80 before, and her father said he would never live to be 80. And she completely ignored the birthday. She has not sent him so much as a safety pin or even a common pin. She has totally ignored it. And I'll give her friend Tyler Perry his due, because Tyler Perry has shown Meghan, if not the rest of the world, how decent people behave with estranged relations. Because Tyler Perry's father, official father, who used to mistreat him when he was growing up, even after Tyler Perry discovered that he's actually not his biological father, he still supports him. He won't speak to him, but he's got him a house, he gives him an income. And so Tyler Perry has shown, when you have been abused by your father, you still honor and respect the relationship. But Meghan hasn't done that. Meghan has taken everything she could from a loving father who literally bankrupted himself so that her dreams would be realized. And she has totally ignored any obligations that she, as a decent human being, would have to her father. And the whole thing, it has been such a stitch-up, as you will know only too well, because, I mean, Thomas Markle Sr. basically believes that he was set up by Meghan from the word go. You know, the whole Jeff Rayner thing is highly suspicious, because Jeff Rayner works with and worked with Meghan before, during and after the setup with her father. And Jeff Rayner is the one who got in touch with Samantha to suggest and gave Samantha various undertakings. And Samantha talked her father into restoring his reputation. And the whole thing was a massive stitch-up and setup. But even if it hadn't been...
Let's get right into the biggest claim of the night. The idea that Meghan Markle intentionally sabotaged her father's chance to meet Prince Harry. Now, if you've been following this saga, you'll remember that Thomas Markle has been painted as the villain, a sort of reckless, bumbling embarrassment to Meghan. That's the narrative the mainstream media ran with. But let's look at this critically, because if there's one thing we know, it's that the media loves to vilify traditional family figures when they don't serve their woke agenda. Thomas Markle, by all accounts, wanted to be involved in his daughter's life. He wanted to be there for her wedding. But somehow, through a series of conveniently timed events, he was effectively erased. This is a pattern, my friends. Think about it. First, Meghan cuts off her father. Suddenly, the man who raised her is persona non grata. Then she isolates Harry from his own family. Suddenly, he's writing tell-all books about how evil his relatives are. Next, she plays the victim, a woman trapped by the oppressive system of monarchy despite willingly walking into it. This isn't just bad luck. This is by design. And it's the same strategy we've seen time and time again from left-wing political operatives and Hollywood elites. Burn the bridges, rewrite the history, and play the victim. That's the kind of language used to describe people who don't just make mistakes, but who orchestrate their own narratives to control how they're perceived.
What's so terrible about somebody who is being introduced trying to restore his dignity? And is that enough to discard a loving father? So I think Meghan's shown us, and Tyler Perry is the perfect foil, because he's supposed to be good friends with Meghan, in quotes, but he has shown us and shown up Meghan, because there's no excuse for the way she has behaved towards her father. I think there's a very good reason, because she couldn't maintain the false facade that she has presented to Harry and have a relationship with her father. That's the reality of the situation.
But Lady C, that is a fascinating potential theory that actually Meghan wanted Thomas Markle to fall before the wedding. She wanted to be able to accuse him of working with the paparazzi because for Harry, she had manipulated Harry to the point where Harry would have decided that was a sort of terrible act that deserved Thomas to be thrust out.
Yes. I think she orchestrated the whole thing. Well, her family thinks she orchestrated the whole thing as well. But I thought that she had orchestrated, if not the whole of it, she had opportunistically used it. I thought this before I knew the family. Now that I know the family and know what their thoughts on the matter are, I mean, that degree of manipulativeness and that degree of calculation and that degree of callousness suggests somebody who basically has a heart of stone. And I mean, that is, if you have ever read the Cleckley book on the Mass of Sanity, which is about the psychopathic personality, that sort of conduct is suggestive of somebody who has a degree of psychopathy in their makeup.
This isn't just about a father and daughter falling out. It's about how media, celebrity culture, and radical feminism encourage women to destroy family ties in favor of personal advancement. Lady Colin makes a strong point about Meghan's level of cold, calculated behavior. Now let's connect some dots, because this isn't just a Meghan problem. We're seeing this exact same formula play out in modern Western society. Traditional family structures are demonized. Fathers are erased from their children's lives. Women are encouraged to cut off relationships for self-empowerment. Where have we seen this before? Right here in America. The destruction of the nuclear family is a key leftist strategy, because if you remove strong family units, you create a population that is more dependent on the state and on media-driven narratives. Let's take some real-world examples. Hollywood's glorification of single motherhood, where fathers are reduced to side characters or worse, villains. The weaponization of feminism, which has shifted from empowering women to teaching them that men and family are obstacles to success. The media's constant push to vilify traditional values, where discipline, responsibility, and loyalty are seen as oppressive rather than essential.
Because the thing is, Lady C, we know that Meghan Markle had a very long history with the paparazzi before she entered the royal family. And the understanding now is that she still works with agencies like Backgrid. So why on earth would that be a reason to cut loose your father?
Well, she was looking for reasons, and she needed to create a reason, because if she hadn't created a reason, her father would have met Harry, and her father is straightforward, honest, garrulous, and he would have given the game away. And Harry would have realized that, hang on a second, something is amiss here. This Boadicea, who has fought her way to the top, nobly working in making sodas in soda fountains at the age of 3 weeks old, and taking advantage of grants and blah, blah, blah. All the lies Meghan actually had unmitigated gall to stand up and tell the world in Fiji about how she had striven to achieve and taken advantage of all sorts of opportunities, and when they didn't exist she found them, and she did grants and jobs and all that, none of which she did because her father has all the financial records to prove that he's the one who paid for her education from beginning to end. And even after she left university, he helped to pay for her flat, and that nonsense about the car where the car was never in that condition, and you don't have to, in any event, if a door doesn't work, you don't have to enter through the back. You simply enter through the side door. Her lies don't even make sense. But let's not forget that when I was writing my first Meghan and Harry book, there was a broadcast in January, sorry, where I think it was on ITV with Thomas Markle, and I was phoned up by somebody very close to me, is very closely connected to somebody very close to Harry. And so that was one of the conduits that they were using to feed me information in the hope that I would write a positive book about them. And because they knew I was writing the book. And I was phoned up and told that the reason why Meghan couldn't ever reconcile with her father was that he used to interfere with her. And I was outraged on Thomas Markle's behalf.
Meghan is the poster child for this. She used family ties to get ahead, and once she no longer needed them, she burned them to the ground. And who's the biggest casualty in all of this? Not Meghan, not Harry, but their children. Those kids will grow up with an edited version of history. A story where their grandfather was an unworthy man and where their father escaped a toxic system. Think about the absolute power of a well-crafted lie. The idea that Thomas Markle was some unfit, embarrassing man who didn't deserve to meet Harry was planted in the public's mind. And it worked. The media ran with it. The narrative stuck. No. It's history. Because if a lie is repeated enough times, it becomes the truth. That's how propaganda works. That's how power is wielded in a world where perception is more important than reality.
But of course, if I had been a less sensible person than I am, I could have put it in. There could have been a police investigation. I mean, can you imagine the way his reputation would have been destroyed? And God forbid that Meghan would have been interviewed and said, "Oh yes, I remember," or "I think I remember," and then all of a sudden it could have gone a totally different way. Instead of which, I simply put in what had happened and said that I didn't believe a word of it. Well, I always thought after that Harry must have believed what Meghan was saying. But then in the Netflix documentary, you could have bowled me over with a feather when Harry said, "But for me, Meghan would have a relationship with her father." That told me then and there that Harry knew that her father had never interfered with her, because why would Harry have destroyed the relationship, Harry's existence? Because if what I had been fed was true, whether Harry existed or not, Meghan wouldn't have wanted to have a relationship with her father. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Totally. I totally see what you're getting at. And we have to remember, Lady C, that she had published publicly the most glowing tributes to Thomas Markle, including on Father's Day. So it doesn't make any sense to suggest that she had somehow turned on Thomas, because she really hadn't. I mean, yes, Samantha has made it clear that when she became famous, she was embarrassed about her family, but she still publicly had a relationship with her father. But the thing is, there are just so many lies, aren't there, about Meghan's past, which is why you can't trust anything. I mean, in his book, Andrew Morton also revealed the fact that she had actually been obsessed with Princess Diana and read his book about Princess Diana, was very touched by the funeral, had obviously been to Buckingham Palace, but she managed to convince Harry that she knew absolutely nothing about the royal family and was in the same room as Prince Andrew and didn't even realise who he was.
Now let's talk about Prince Harry's absolute lowest moment of 2024. And believe me, there were a lot to choose from. Lady Colin calls out Harry's refusal to publicly deny the ridiculous accusations that King Charles and Princess Catherine made racist remarks about his son. Think about what that means. This isn't just a family disagreement. This is character assassination at the highest level. We've seen this before in politics, where vague, damaging allegations are allowed to fester because they serve a narrative. It's the same tactic used against conservative Supreme Court nominees. The same trick played in smear campaigns against Republicans. The accusations don't even need to be proven. They just need to exist. The stain lasts forever. By staying silent, Harry has done something worse than outright lying. He has allowed a false narrative to take root. And that, my friends, is the true art of deception.
Well, Harry really has to be thicker than anybody could ever have imagined, if he really believes any of that. You know, several people have told me that Meghan has used my posthumous biography, The Real Diana, as a template to play Harry, and several of the subsequent incidents are taken directly out of the book. I would prefer to think that's not so, but however, she is an arch manipulator, and you can't believe a word out of her mouth. But I have seen in other relationships that are evocative of Harry and Meghan's relationship, where a dominant, egotistical woman married to a weak, subservient mama's boy, even when he knows she is lying, on some level it doesn't really matter to him, because these relationships are usually quite sadomasochistic. So when the good is good, it's great. And when the bad is bad, it's awful. But the woman will if it's a mannequin as well, they will reel them in when their position is threatened by their behavior. And it's very befuddling to have to deal with somebody who suffers, well, somebody who has, they don't suffer from, they have narcissistic traits in their personality. And especially if they're a fully blown narcissist, which Meghan would appear to be of her conduct. You know, it's very befuddling, because you never know what they're going to come up with, and you never know what's true and what's not. And if you remain emotionally connected to them, you spend your life in a tumble dryer of befuddlement, really, because you don't know ever what's real and what's not. But as long as you are addicted to them, you are stuck with them.
So what's the lesson here? Meghan Markle is not just a celebrity, she is a case study in media manipulation and modern cultural decay. Prince Harry has abandoned his own dignity to serve a false narrative. And the bigger picture? This is what happens when we allow tradition to be rewritten by those who profit from division. The fight isn't just about the British monarchy, it's about the erosion of family, honor, and truth.